So, chat. Gender usually falls in our society into two categories of traits, broadly categorized as masculine and feminine. And when when one genders themselves a man, they're making an appeal to this category of masculine traits. When one categorizes themselves as a woman, they're making an appeal to this categorization of feminine traits. But here's the thing. These categories of traits are not set in stone. They are agreed upon by society at large, right? And as such, if you look back in time, the ideas of what masculinity is and what femininity is have been very, very different. And in fact, you can find other societies around the world who have made entirely new categories to categorize and talk about people who don't fall into those two broad categories, right? So, for a great example of this would be, I believe it's pronounced Hirja in India. I probably butchered that. But India has a third legal gender that is recognized on a federal level in a country of over 1 billion people. And that has its own categorization of traits, right? There are other societies that have existed across the world at different points in time that have different categorizations of gender. So, when we're talking about people who have unconventional genders, right? By and large, we still rely on, masculine and feminine, the man and woman dichotomy. But we have non-binary people as well. And non-binary is a large umbrella term within the trans community that encompasses a lot of different identities. Some people just identify as non-binary. Some people identify as two-spirit. Some people identify in numerous other ways. And one of the smaller umbrella terms within the non-binary category is something called xenogender. So xenogenders, to the best of my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, but to the best of my understanding, are largely making appeals to a category of thing, animal, concept that they feel embodies their gendered traits. So this can be something like a lion, a wolf, a void. There are numerous different examples. Deer might be one, especially if you're terminally online, that you have heard before. These are all appeals to different categories of animals, not because these people believe that they are animals, but because they embody a categorization of traits that that person heavily identifies with. So when we're talking about this, it's much more in the vein of like old-timey generals who took on the moniker like the Lion, or like dudes in the early aughts who got way too into identifying as an alpha male after reading about alpha wolves, okay? It's like that, but turned up to 11 for people who identify their gender with these categories. And so I think that actually the alpha comparison, while not flattering in particular to xenogender folks, is an example of how this idea is more widespread in our society than one might think at first blush. It's just that because alphas identify that alphaness with their masculinity, they incorporate it into their pre-existing category. It's more accepted. And so that's kind of the breakdown here. It's just that people who are trying to figure out their gender sometimes fall into a category where they're like, well, none of these categories fit, so I'm going to make kind of my own category. And that's fine. You know, that's fine. When we look at the objections to this idea, hello, Darkstar Mike. When we look at the objections to this idea, it largely falls into a couple smaller categories. One category being like, oh, it'll be too difficult to figure out all these pronouns to use. Well, this is not, a lot of this is going to be anecdotal data because there's not a ton of like empirical studies on xenogender folks. Most xenogender people use relatively accessible pronouns because none of them are going into a conversation with a random person expecting them to just pull fey femme out of their ass. Okay? So they'll use like they them pronouns or its pronouns. And it is interesting to me that it'll be too complicated. Well, it's not really that complicated, though. It's really not. And another objection is, well, there are just too many genders. Well, that's fine. Like, who cares if there are too many genders? You got your own. Somebody else has theirs. It's fine. The current one is it will harm trans rights. That is another one that I encountered pretty heavily today, Lady Raincloud. Which is that, xenogenders look silly and therefore they will put trans rights back to where conservatives want them to be. Conservatives already consider all trans people like horribly degenerate and disgusting creatures. It's not like if xenogenders didn't exist, they would like stop attacking trans people. Just today, Steven Crowder went on Twitter and like tweeted out an attack on a church that was having a gay drag brunch because the church, supports queer people in the community. And it's not hidden. So what people on the left are actually saying when they're talking about how, xenogenders are gonna like make the left look bad and make trans rights look bad and put it back decades, is that they think that the support of trans people is contingent on trans people not looking silly to the vast majority of cisgender folks. Which, sorry, it's always been an uphill battle for trans people. Always. From the very beginning. And it's just like being optically more digestible for liberals who are on the fence about trans rights is not going to make a meaningful difference. And if it does, then that says a whole lot more about the state of where actual LGBTQ rights are in the country. And it should be terrifying. Terrifying. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Ross DeBoss. All of these objections seem to just be attempts to excuse treating other people without respect. A lot of these arguments seem to just be Well, what if hypothetically someone identified as N-word gender and wanted you to use N-word pronouns? Would you do it, or would you be transphobic? And it's just like, I would just call them an asshole and move on. Like, I'm not obligated to respect or interact with anyone who's like being a disingenuous fuck. You know? Like, sorry. I mean, it's not even like a debate bro hypothetical. It's just like, in the real world, if somebody came up to you and said that, you'd just be like, you're a fucking asshole, and I'm not gonna have anything to do with you. Like, you just leave. If somebody tried to exist like that in the world, they would be fired from their job before they finished identifying themselves. It's an obvious troll. And I'm sorry. You know what? I'll go on record, chat. I'm willing to be transphobic to Nazi genders. I'm willing to be transphobic to slur genders, okay? I'll be transphobic to those people. Yeah, fuck it. I'm willing to tolerate that level of transphobia. I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think it is inconsistent. I know. I'm taking such a strong, controversial stance. Call them a shit cunt, like anyone who makes a helicopter joke. Yeah. Yeah, it's literally the paradox of tolerance, just applied to social situations. What about C-slur genders? Alex Rivas, too far. Look, we can't talk about our fellow honkas that way, okay? Yeah, debate bro hypotheticals about pronouns almost always reveal that the person clearly failed elementary English. It's just like, I don't even like calling them debate bro hypotheticals. They're just shitty hypotheticals. If somebody like walked up to you and said that, no one would want anything to do with them, and that would be okay. You should have warned me to wear my leather clothing while throwing out all of these hot takes. Sorry, Circuit Overlord. Yeah, honka gender? Yeah, exactly, semi-neffy duck. The best emote I've ever made. The honka emote. So we have this divergence, and it wouldn't be so upsetting and awful if people didn't get really upset about it. Because one of the things I encountered today, yo, Archangel the Cub, thank you for gifting a sub to Spectacular Snyderman. Also, chat, we've been streaming for over an hour. If you'd like to support the channel, please throw some subs, bits, or exclamation point tips. Type exclamation point tip in chat towards me, because that will very much help me to survive and pay rent and live. And I like all of those things. Mini Cold, thank you for subscribing. And scrolling through just chatting to look for a friendly face to drop my Prime sub to. Saw the amazing hair. Staying for the hot takes. Thank you very much, Mini Cold. I appreciate you and your forwardness. And thank you for the follow as well. Bumble Homestead, thank you for the 100 biddies. Lauren Bobert, my pronouns are patriot. English teachers, that's a noun. Did you even pass elementary school? I'm 2 away from 69 subs. Hell yeah. Elon Musk has no interest in banning Nazis from Twitter. ZT Squared, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you all so much. Love your channel. Oh, thank you. So there is this like divergence, and I dug a little deeper into it today, and it was really interesting because I found other trans people arguing against xenogenders. And I really wanted to know why. So I followed this conversation thread, and obviously it was pretty hostile. But at the end of the day, the trans person who is arguing against the acceptance of xenogenders, for them, it came down to this idea that essentially real trans people have to suffer. Real trans people have to experience dysphoria. Real trans people need to medically transition or they'll die. Everyone else is just faking and essentially stealing valor from real trans people. And I don't understand this take. I get it. I get it on one level. It's kind of like almost like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Where people have gone through a lot, and their identity as a trans person really means a lot to them. And so it can bother the idea that other trans people could exist and not have to go through those same things, jump through those same hoops, it feels to them like it's devaluing their own experience. TERFs often define womanhood with suffering. That's a really good observation. Antarcticat. I like that username. Paul Squall, thank you for the 100 biddies, by the way. So, is it okay to say fuck that person? Yeah. I always think about epistemic injustice when xenogenders come up. We suffer a real poverty of language and understanding about gender. Yeah. And I think that will solve itself over time because language is quite malleable. So I've tried to explain this, but y'all, you can be trans without experiencing gender dysphoria, right? Does anyone here disagree with that concept? Because I think for some people, the idea that they struggle to wrap their head around the idea of someone being otherwise comfortable in their body, identifying as a different gender. Archangel the Cobb, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub to Antarcticat. I appreciate it, and I hope they do too. Let's see. Even cis people can have gender dysphoria. They forget you can also have gender euphoria. Oof. Hiccup. So glad I decided to get stoned. Let's see. For me, stripping myself of my assigned gender was freeing. Yeah, I mean, I can think of a lot of reasons that an otherwise cisgender person might want to identify as non-cis. For example, a lot of gender roles can be really confining. A lot of gender identity can be a dictate rather than a descriptor. And so there are some people who just want to find a level of freedom in who they are by identifying as a different gender. And that's fine. You can be transgender without having to suffer. And I think that's great. We should be fighting for a world in which trans people don't have to suffer in order to exist. That should be one of the goals. Let's see. The real question, why do we mark how trans someone is based on their dysphoria instead of the euphoria? I think both ways are bad. Yeah, I agree with your point. I mean, each person is going to have their own feelings and thoughts that choose them to identify as any gender. It doesn't need to be dysphoria. But non-binary and xenogender folks can sometimes do some form of medical transition. It's kind of a myth that they don't. Absolutely. And I don't mean to imply that they don't. All I'm saying is that even if you granted the argument that all xenogenders are just trans LARPers because they don't medically transition, they would be just as trans as any fully transitioned trans man or trans woman. They would be just as trans. Because being transgender, folks, I feel like I need to remind you, is not undergoing medical transition. That is not a prerequisite for being trans. The only thing that is described by someone being trans is that they identify as something other than the gender they were assigned at birth. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing. So, like, the idea that you need to suffer, the idea that you need to medically transition, the idea that you need to be anything other than what you identify as is, frankly, it's just an attempt to gatekeep other people, to deny other people their existence, their being, their descriptors. It's an attempt to gender police. And that's not really cool. I don't think that's good. I think that's actually quite bad. The goal, like part of the goal, by the way, is to have people who can identify and express themselves in as many different ways as they would like. That's the goal. There are some, like, obvious, like, societal boundaries that people aren't, like, willing to cross. For example, like, I'm murder gender, so I need to murder in order to express my gender. Like, obviously, sorry, just identifying as that is not going to be, like, licensed to murder in any future society or present society. That will quickly not work in court. Sorry, Jack, gotta go sleep now. Have to get up tomorrow for stuff. Yo, lovely seeing you again, Mara, dear. Get good sleep. Anyone who wants HRT should get HRT. Yeah, Punky Gal, I don't disagree with that point. You're not letting me express my defenestration identity. But Jack, how can I be a base trans monster that threatens the existence of society as we know it if I don't take away from someone else's perceived value by my own existence? People get mad if you don't medically transition, or if you medically transition. It's a lose-lose to appease people. People act like the people that medically transition super fast are fake. It's weird to me how we don't know how long that person was living an internal struggle. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know if, like, the xenogender person I meet has had, like, a really long struggle with, like, their gender identity, or if they just decided to do it for fun that day. And frankly, like, that's not important to me. Like, the sincerity of their gender identity is not important to me. I don't get to control what other people say. You know? As an individual actor in the world, I cannot control other people. What I can control is how I react to other people. And I know that personally, I think that reacting to people with kindness and respect is almost always the best way to react when somebody is talking about how they personally identify, what is personally important to them. And the idea that you should deny that respect and decency and love to someone because you think they're too silly, I think that is, frankly, the essence of transphobia. I think that is, at its core, one of the key parts of transphobia. And I do not have time for that. This isn't saying that you should treat, like, someone who comes up to you and is like, I'm N-word gender, with, like, love and respect. You can tell that person to fuck off. Because guess what? You have the ability to react to what other people say to you. And if somebody is pushing personal boundaries, is being a rude asshole, well, you can tell them to fuck off. And that's fine. Let's see. I agree, no one should control what other people say. Yeah, you match the energy that other people bring to you. Let's see. But Jack, how can I be a base trans... Oh, wait. Burp. Punky Gal, I'm not entirely sure what point you're trying to make. I'm sorry. Anyway, on that note, it's time to get into fun Twitter drama. And just for you, Semi-Knifey Duck. Oh, teacher. Fun Twitter drama. Yes, 100% I hate the whole you have to be polite and open-minded even towards bigots and assholes opinions debate. Yeah, like, no, I don't. I don't have to be polite to somebody who's like, I identify as a Nazi. Fuck you. And before we get into drama, I'm gonna drink more water. Here we go, folks. Elon took it down, yeah. Trigger warning for racial slurs. So, trigger warning, folks. So, I was minding my own business, going through Twitter, and I come across a screenshot that I double check to make sure that it's genuine after posting like, gee whiz, I hope that's not real. And it definitely seems to be real. A little bit of a background on this. A lot of the people in Destiny's orbit and in the DGG community have been really, really, really virulently anti-xenogender lately. Like, very anti-xenogender. Talking about how xenogender people are going to make trans people look bad and set back transgender rights and whatever. So we need to ostracize and other xenogender people in order to save the transgender rights movement. What is DGG? That is Destiny's community. That's what it's referred to as. One of the people... what's xenogender? Sorry if it's been asked already. B-Salad, here is how I would describe xenogender, okay? Masculinity and femininity are both categories of traits that people associate as their gender, right? So when you identify as a man, what that means is you are identifying with a categorization of different traits that are associated with manlyhood, or manliness, manhood, masculinity. You know, when you identify as a woman, you're making an appeal to that categorization of traits. And those traits change over time as kind of like collectively agreed upon socially, right? But as we look back in time, and as we look at different places around the world, at different points in time, what masculinity and femininity are changes drastically because these categories are socially constructed. And it also means that in some societies, in fact, in many societies, we find entirely different categories for gender, like the Hirja in India, which is the legally recognized third gender of India, which is a country with over 1 billion people in it. And so there are all of these different categorizations. And when someone identifies as xenogender, they are essentially making an appeal to another categorization of traits. Usually it is an animal, but it can also be a concept. For example, like a lion or a wolf these animals have traits that we associate in our societies, and that is the categorization they most identify with on a gender level. When we're talking about concepts, there's a concept called void gender, which is the idea that you are always basically searching for what your gender identity is, and as you deepen that search, the expanse of what gender means to you just yawns wider and wider. Yeah, and bee salad, I don't fully understand it either. The best analogy that I have heard of is like, it's kind of like how in ye olden days, like a general would be named like, Flavius the Lion, or Richard the Lionhearted, or in Game of Thrones, like the young wolf of Winter. What? Anyway, I don't remember Game of Thrones. But like, yeah, these ideas are Winterfell. Thank you. These ideas are appeals to a certain level of identity and traits. It's just that when it comes to xenogenders, they identify it as like their gender. Becomes nebulous and ever expanding as you search for yourself and always learn more. Exactly, Metroid Magus. Thank you for explaining it. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, when they first hear about xenogender, they're like, wow, that person identifies as deer gender? Wow, they think they're a fucking deer? Wow, you want me to treat you like a deer? That's fucking stupid. But like, if you actually talk to someone like that, they're like, they know that they're not a deer, and they're not trying to be treated like a deer. They're like making an appeal to what the collective societal characteristics and traits of a deer are. Like maybe gentle, kind, stuff like that, Hey, Nenya the cat. Talk to Doe, she'll tell you what's up. Yeah, and Doe is a great example of like a prominent xenogender person who like is really good at talking about it. With me personally, I try to understand something before I judge it. Unfortunately, B Salad, you are in a minority when it comes to hyperbole on the internet. Kind of like when someone kins something. Doodleburb, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what kin are. I don't know what other kin means. Maybe it might be the same thing, but I genuinely don't know. I don't know about that subsection of whatever it is. Yeah, and Paul Squall points out like how language and concepts change over time, Caesar started off as a name, became a title, and now it's a concept that we relate to monarchy. And I think that, by the way, as we embrace transness and transgender identities, you would expect to see more people playing around with their gender, and more people coming to almost like individualize their identities. This is, by the way, one of the processes by which people talk about gender abolition. Otherkin is like, I'm descended from the Fae. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Otherkin is not comparable to xenogenders? Okay. Okay, it's absolutely not the same. Otherkin would be if Doe thought it was actually a deer. Okay, yeah. Otherkin are the people who think they are actually those animals, like actually a dragon. Okay. I think there's a lot of conflation that goes on between otherkin and xenogenders, and it's not accurate. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like a Tumblr new agey belief. Otherkin think they aren't human in whole or in part. Interesting. hot take true scum are the way they are because they think cis people will think of them as valid and accepted? Yes. That is correct. That is correct. True scum are trying to be the last ones sent to the death camps when fascism takes hold. That is their goal, explicitly. And I don't think that's very controversial to say. They're willing to sell out their untransitioned or non-transitioning trans peeps to get more acceptance and validity for themselves, right up until all trans people go down together. It is the literal "I'm not like other girls." Exactly. Hello, Prince Seal. I hope you're doing all right. You haven't come around a lot lately, so I hope you're doing okay. So anyway, these people who have spent a lot of time shitting on xenogender people, well, I saw a screenshot of them going around, and you know, I'm just gonna read off the tweet that I made. Xenogenders will make us look bad. Those same people, minutes later, and you can read the screenshot for yourselves. There we go. Image in a new tab. Oh, that is not legible for you. 1 second. This is what I get for streaming games on a politics stream. There we go. Bruh. And I'll read this out. My Negro. She's infuriated by the quality of the product. She isn't insulting you or whoever bought that Lego set. My what? And then we have people from the DGG sphere. NIGG. And that's where that screenshot cuts off. But then the original commenter, bruh. Honestly, Gammy is so horrible, I totally expected that, but it's funny to see that Lemon Kid person be blatantly racist too, given how insufferable they've been in every interaction that I've seen them in. Love it when my internal biases against people are validated. And then we have Sansol, NIGGER. What the fuck is a xenogender? Pope Slayer Mark II. Chat, one of you is tasked with clipping what my explanation from like 5 seconds ago, okay? On what xenogenders are. One of you is tasked with clipping either that or the one from the beginning of stream, okay? So that we can just post a link to that clip so I don't have to keep explaining what xenogenders are. Please, for the love of God. Let's see. Because I've done it so many times. It's just like, yeah, guys, the joke there is like, oh, are we gonna post the N-word? And then like, yeah, you just posted the N-word. Even if you did the fake out and went with like Nigeria, it's still not a joke. It's just like, haha, you thought I was going to be racist. Which isn't really a joke. That's just you threatening to be racist. Ready to talk about Elon Musk buying Twitter? Frankly, I don't think there's really that much to talk about. Elon Musk is just going to be like vanity shitting on Twitter. Like that's it. Xenogenders are the usage of animal concepts that society recognizes to help explain your identity. I mean, It'd be really nice if we could just get the clip of the explanation. Xeno, yeah, the trifecta, Xenogender, Xenogears, and Xenoblade. You know, you could later. It's too far back. Xenosaga, yeah, the quadrilogy. The Xenomorph. I look. It's me, Natalie Marie. There's a part of me that's like, I don't think that Sansol was intending to spell out the N-word, but it's kind of like, you were like posting an N because you knew that other people were going to post after that, and that it was essentially going to be threatening racism in the same way that the original screenshot was. So I don't really think there's like that much. It's not that much better to say like, well, I didn't think other people were gonna like finish the N-word. Yeah, he was literally doing the same thing that was in the post that was clipped. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, City of Doors. I don't want to think that like he was just wanting to say the N-word, but that's what he ended up doing, and that's not cool. Like Aliens versus Predators. Okay, chat. Fucking clip this so I don't have to say it again, okay? I'm gonna explain Xenogenders one more time, as succinctly as I can, okay? So, when one identifies as a man, one is identifying with a bunch of characteristics that we categorize as masculinity, okay? Similar, we have something like that for someone who identifies as a woman, okay? And then there are people who identify with categorizations of traits that do not fall into masculinity or femininity, and those are non-binary folk. Okay? Under the non-binary umbrella, there's another category of folk called xenogenders, and xenogenders identify their gender with a different categorization than one might typically expect from someone who's non-binary. For example, they make appeals to the characteristics and traits that one might associate with an animal like a lion or a deer, or a concept like a void. And these characteristics and traits are just as valid as a gendered concept as people who identify with masculinity or femininity. They're just identifying with a different categorization of traits that is in itself fairly arbitrary, as we can tell if you look at the history of what masculinity and femininity have meant to different societies at different times and places. So, they're fine. Boom. There we go. I don't know if I quite made that 60 seconds. If don't know if I quite made that 60 seconds. That didn't at all fit within 60 seconds. Damn it. Hey, little Moni. I really am no longer surprised at the number of people I thought were once okay, and now they aren't okay. Yeah. Anyway, so, I saw this, I was like, wow, that's pretty horrible. And I took the opportunity to just say, xenogenders will make us look bad. The same people, minutes later, saying the N-word. Then that post did numbers. Lil Moni, thank you very much for gifting a sub to John NYC. Yeah, it did some numbers. I don't have that many people who follow me, so this is relatively viral for how large my account is. Well, yeah, we got some folks here supporting, and we got some people who are genuinely curious. We got someone here being like, I don't get xenogenders personally, but it's not my place to say what identities are and aren't valid. So, and you know what? I think that is a perfectly fine stance to take. Perfectly fine stance to have. Like, you don't have to get it to, like, understand. Or, like, attempt to say. A lot of people just being like, this is actually funny. Mixed in with the what the fucks. A lot of people trying to say that participating in saying the N-word is not racism, which is pretty wild. Then we got the obligatory Xenogears jokes, which always welcome. Yeah. A lot of people being like, actually, it's good to be racist. Oh yeah, you're the one that looks like Onision. I'm too old to know who or what that is. Are you like 40? Yes. Also, chat, you know what? It's okay. If someone's mean to you on the internet, that's fine. It's fine. Especially if you're right. Hey, Josie Rose. I hope you're recovering all right from the surgery. How you feeling? Hey, Kerpot Kinetic. Antarcticat, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. The first word I see when I come in is Onision. Dear Lord, I'm afraid. Yeah, someone was trying to be mean to me and compared me to him, I guess, and said I looked like him. I don't know who that is, really, so... Okay. Older women are hot anyway. Changed my mind. True. You're not older than me? I know. That's not possible. I'm not 40 years old, chat. But clearly to someone who looks like they were born yesterday, I basically look 40. Funny because some of you motherfuckers actually still follow those people. Yep. Sometimes I follow people that I don't like because they help me aggregate content for my show. Sometimes, chat, I like tweets on Twitter because it helps me aggregate content for my show, not because I actually support right-wing content or conservatives, but because it helps me collate data for the show. And I'm too lazy to use incognito. And sometimes when you're scrolling Twitter and you see a good post that you want to talk about later, it's really hard to go back and find it. So I just hit the like button. Heretic. I know. I know. A lot of people attempting to do the same joke again by writing out the N-word individually. I'm 36. Josie Rose, my girlfriend's 36. very much, and she's super, super hot. Do you think that would be helpful? I'm sure I could make a plugin that... Well, so part of the problem isn't that I don't have the ability to just bring tweets into tabs and like bookmark them that way. I do that when I'm on PC. The problem is, if I'm on my phone, then like it's really hard for me to save something for me to access later on my PC. Yeah, Antarctic Cat. That is the joke. The joke is usually either, are we gonna do a racism? Are we gonna do a racism? Nope, we're not. We wrote out Nigeria. Are we gonna do a racism? Yep, we did a racism. Damn. Such a chill vibe with this music. I feel like we need a chill vibe today, you know? Why did Twitter recommend this to me? Who are you people? I don't know! Look, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. Complain to him, motherfucker. It's not even like an accidental racism because you intended it to be interpreted as racism. Just that you didn't think you would actually like say the whole word. It's like somebody saying like the word niggardly really slowly, and like, oh, you said a slur. Like, nah. But just to be safe, probably shouldn't say that word anyway. You gave me a mini heart attack. I know, right? It's a scary word to say. It's a scary word to say. And frankly, it really does seem like it seems like a word that should not be allowed, but it has nothing to do with the N-word. I'm so sorry, chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'ma just never even use that word. Well, the worst part is it just seems like a word that like a racist Southerner would make up. But like it like literally every Google result for this is like it's not truly related to the N-word, okay? The etymology is totally different. It's just an unfortunate byproduct of language changing over time. I think, yeah, like, definitely that should be one of the words that we just, like, phase out of existence, you know? But, like, you get what I mean, right? Like, there will be plenty of people who are like, I'm gonna say the N-word, and then just say, like, that word instead. And they're like, haha, you thought I was going to be racist, but I wasn't. And, like, that's not a joke. It's just you being pretty racist. Anyway. Why the fuck would you say that word if you're not, like, in a history class or English class talking about words or quoting something old? I didn't say the word, DB Wolf. Goddamn. Watch me get banned off Twitch for like a week for saying a word that is not related in any way. Yeah, the conservatives on Twitter definitely did say the N-word. That is true. Also, a lot of people throwing around the R slur. Excuse me. Hiccups. also, like, one of the fun aspects of this is, like, you know, larger communities will be like, oh, well, you know, if you see somebody being racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic, just report them and we'll get rid of them. Like, I'm sorry, folks. Are you going to ban Pana 8826029? Because I think that is the kind of username that really inspires confidence that username is definitely not a throwaway account. That's someone who's dedicated their life to building up that account, and banning them will absolutely work. No, it won't. It won't work at all. Okay, they just make another account. Let's see. DGG being buttheads. Yeah, basically. You know, there's some people calling me Honka, but with a hard Y. People be wildin'. Anyway, my mentions are garbage. People are saying the N-word at me a lot. Or talking about how actually it's not that bad. There are a lot of people, you can't say... No, you can't! Suddenly Sleepy. They were banning people for saying, slurs for white people. So obviously, I realized that you could probably still say them with a soft A. You know? Honka. Cracka. You know? But you have to make sure it's a soft A. Honka, please. Monka S. Jack. What? Last stream? Ah, chat. It's only last stream if you guys snitch, and also if Twitch decides that me using a soft A is not good enough anymore, in which case, why is soft A acceptable from black content creators, but not from white content creators, Twitch? Don't understand. I like Honka. I'm a big Honka fan. I like it a lot. It's like just a silly sounding word. It makes me smile and laugh.